right, so with that, going all the way from India back to the US, I'd like to welcome our next guest, and we're honored to have Mr. Howard Rosen on today. Who's been in the, who's had over 30 plus years of healthcare leadership experience. So Howard, welcome to the symposium today. And we'd love to get a little bit of a background on the multiple hats that you've been wearing recently, and one of them just being the distinguished thought leader of the Forbes Business Counsel. So over to you, Howard.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. So very quickly, yes, there's a multitude. I actually had hair before this process started, maybe from the hats. Very quickly, it's a traditional health IT approach. I educated as an MBA. I spent the first 20 years of a career producing film and television, which naturally segues into health IT, which I've been doing for over 15 years now, from when I invented a patient engagement communication platform in 2005, for which I founded a company, LifeWire, which I stepped down this past fall after 15 years of being CEO, really looking to take the trench warfare of experience, frankly, of both careers, but applying it into the healthcare environment, dealing with innovation, communication, and something I think we'll be talking about is what I call sort of humanizing digital transformation, and working as an advisor to a number of companies and consultants as well.
No, wonderful, Howard. It's you've certainly got a rich plethora of experiences to be able to share with the with the community and with the ecosystem. So far we've really spoken about approaches and health tech adoption in terms of the solutions that are out there. But I'd love for you to talk about tech more as an enabler and kind of speaking around that point.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Again, I come from actually on the vendor side of things, having a point, a solution, as I said, the communication platform, for which I started with myself and then built it to a much larger company. But one of the many things and lessons I learned as an entrepreneur of a startup, building out, working with payers and providers, as you sort of said, technology has got to be looked at as an enabler, not the solution. And in many cases, clients were looking to literally bolt on our technology. In other cases, so let's bolt on the technology. If you build it or show it, they will come. And that's just not the case in terms of it's just not going to be used. Obviously, the experience of COVID for the past 18 to 24 months have shown us that, yes, a lot of solutions, a lot of were used, they're bolted on, they've got their CMS, they received lots of payments for it, but now that's drying up. And you have a lot of cases where there's a big drop off on utilization of those digital assets. A lot of the times is because it was bolted on without really building it into the organization itself and understanding this is an enabling piece. It's not just here's a solution we've done. It's actually part of the process and not the process.
Yeah, no, I think a really, really important point that you make there in terms of that. I mean, looking at what the topic of this particular segment is about in terms of looking at the human side of the equation to health tech adoption. Can you talk around the digital transformation needs that that addresses this human side?
How many hours do we have for this? So the short version of this is really, as I said, when it comes to humanization, is because obviously everyone's going through the digital transformation actually across all industries, but particularly in terms of healthcare. And there's a lot of resources put to that. But a recent study came out saying, with all that, across the industries, about 25% of healthcare, 25% of digital transformation is considered a success. In the healthcare environment, it's 4 to 11% is considered to be a success, which is staggeringly low, much lower than actually I thought. But a lot of the reason is, or a lot of the elements to it is because, yes, they sort of talk about, let's put it into our system, but it's not incorporating the fact that you've got so many elements within the organization itself that they've got to be involved in the process. And looking at the elements of the patient themselves, in that customer experience for the patient, but frankly, those customers you have within your organization. If you're a health system, you've got physicians, you've got nurses, you've got techs within those organizations. So you've got customers both within and internally and externally to the organization. And even though people are thinking that they're incorporating that when they have their process done and put together for digital transformation, the process is very different from the culture and very different from actually involving those people, those elements involved in every part of that process. In fact, with my partners, we've recently come out with what we call sort of the customer experience maturity tool, which is really a quick way of sort of seeing where do you really stand in understanding the customer, whether internal or external, and frankly, where you stand as you've changed, where you stand within the industry and where you stand compared to other industries. Really just get that heads up, because everyone feels they're dealing with the customers, but this is sort of a way to sort of demonstrate for themselves to see where they actually stand. And that becomes the starting point of that process of what I sort of call that humanizing this process. Again, not the tech side, but the people side.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I mean, moving away, not necessarily moving away from that, but maybe looking at the overall, I suppose, umbrella of the entire ecosystem of healthcare, and kind of looking at that kind of bigger overview. I'd love you to talk about, the adoption needs that addresses the whole system or the whole ecosystem, and talking about all those different steps that lead all the way up to the patient.
Well, it all, it's again, how many hours do we have? Really, what you need to look at is what is the objective and the mission of the company, the organization, and what are your chief strategy piece and elements, your objectives you want to attain. Obviously, you want to have a large customer base or patient base, whatever the case may be, but you also want to be able to have a satisfied base because you want to have recurring patients returning. And so you sort of almost have to look at it as a brand management approach. And all those pieces, again, starts from the top. What is the core strategies and what are considered the methods of success, which is another piece. It's nice to have the strategy, but you need to itemize what are those key pieces of success you're trying to measure and want to achieve. And so you've really got to go through those processes from the C-suite all the way down, and then you can determine who are the pieces in this ecosystem that are touched. And it's a great many parts to that puzzle that you need to address, on top of issues of, okay, reimbursement models, how do we get paid for all it all, and how do we create that mix and that product mix. But unless you've sort of starts from the top, it gets very difficult for each piece to sort of work on their own to try to get to that.
Yeah, no, fascinating, insights on that, Howard. I know we are over by a couple of minutes, but I'd love for you to maybe give one more bit of insight, in terms of, I suppose, where you kind of see health tech adoption going, whether it is, at that patient level, or whether, we're really looking at the overall ecosystem level, and kind of where you see the development, I guess, of health tech adoption in the near future.
Well, the quick answer is yes. So the discussion's over. But it's inevitable in terms of you're going to have this digital transformation occur. You have the tools. Just look again back to the customer, the patient experience. In every other industry, they already have a very deep integrated relationship. Again, a combination of digital, virtual, and human. You're never going to take the human side out of it at all. In fact, that's a horror show if you do that. But what you need to do is there's elements that can be done on a digital virtual basis. Others, you need that human side. So it's a ongoing hybrid balance against changes based on the organization and the services provided. In terms of the timing of it all, it's going to be a combination. Again, it's going to be bottom up and top down in terms of the patients and the drive for how that works and what is the most effective way for it to work. And again, it goes back to the mission and the strategies of the respective organization as to what is adopted when and how, outside of the regulatory pieces, of course, in terms of how the reimbursement models work.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for sharing that, Howard, and thank you for being on with us as well today. I know you came on a little bit later in the scheduled run up to this week, but really appreciate you coming on. And like you said, there's not really enough time in a 10-15 minute segment to cover absolutely everything. So Howard's LinkedIn information again should be in the chat. So if you are interested in continuing that conversation with him, please do feel free to reach out and connect with him via LinkedIn, and I believe you had something else that you wanted to share with us as well, Howard, in terms of something that you're involved with right now.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it should be inside the, I think it's being posted in the chat as well. It's really just a link to that customer experience maturity tool for those who want to just take it for a spin to get a sense of how that works and where they stand. The insight, we're hoping it's got great insights to help you as you will continue on your journey.
Thank you, Howard, and everybody that's tuning in. Do check out that tool that Howard mentioned. It should be in the chat. Unique, if it's not, please get it up. And Howard, wonderful to have you on, sir. And
thank you so much, Jerry. As always, I appreciate it and enjoyed the short minutes that we have.
Absolutely, always a pleasure to speak.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that brings us on to just before our next panel comes on. We've got another exclusive giveaway here. So if you would all like to get to the chat box, and I think some people already have done before I've even asked the question. But as I mentioned, Sherry DeVille is going to be on later. She's the author of Mobile Medicine, Overcoming People, Culture and Governance. And in order to win a signed copy of one of her books, if you could get to the chat box and answer this question, what blank billion out of 157 billion in research and development funds go to developing countries? Is it A, 23.2, B, 6.8, C, 5.6, or D, 1.8 billion? And let's give everyone 2 more seconds to get into that chat and answer this question. And the answer is C, 5.6. So that's the portion of the billions of dollars in research development funds that are currently going to developing countries. So I'm not sure, again, the chat box went crazy then. So hopefully Unique will be able to get me who the winner is of this round of book giveaways. And there will be at least 2 more later on. So do keep your eyes and fingers peeled to give us the correct answers for your chance to win a signed copy from Sherry. Just before, again, we go to our next panel, I just want to bring up that Stan, who will be on in a moment, is the director of the Digital Health Strategy Program at the Columbia University. We have had 3 different cohorts that have joined us already in February, March, and April. And we have our last one for this half of 2022 coming up in the next week. So May 3rd to 12th, he's going to be hosting a cohort virtual on the topic of health data science. We will be putting a discount link in the chat box momentarily, where you can get a significant portion of the course fee off if you follow that link and put the discount code in. There is still time to register. I think they're taking registrations all the way up to Monday. So please feel free to check out that link and attend this wonderful session that Stan puts on over these next 2 weeks. If you have any questions, please email him. His email is on the slide right here, and we will also share it in the chat. And as I mentioned, it will be 18 hours of AI and health data science coming up in the next 2 weeks with Stan at Columbia Business School.